All right, the Cleveland Browns just got some sneaky good news. And I think sometimes when schedules are put out there, and by the way, we got two topics to talk about today. Number one is a little hidden gem in the schedule. I'm not talking about a game. All right, I'm not going to talk about a single game here or anything like that. I'm going to talk about a hidden gem in the schedule. And then we are going to talk about PFF put out a list of the most underrated player on each team. And it's a player I know well as a Michigan fan that I want you to get to know well. You didn't get to know him well enough last year, but you're going to see how this guy can be a really good player for you this year when fully healthy for the entirety of a season. I'm really excited to see what we can get for that. All right, so a couple things for you. First, let me give you the kind of the sneaky little hidden happiness that the Browns just received because, honest to goodness, it's a big deal. All right, so it's a big deal and something that is definitely needed. All right, the Cleveland Browns just got, and here you can see it. I don't even think they even make the list, all right, because there's a second picture on this. All right, this is the total miles traveled amongst teams. And what you can naturally see on this is teams that are at the corner of somewhere in the country. This is the total miles traveled for teams on their schedule. Teams that are in the corner of the country generally travel more. So you have the Chargers. The Dolphins actually are up there, which is crazy. The Seattle Seahawks, the Patriots, right? So you have far west, you have far south, far west, far east, 49ers, Rams, Raiders, south, 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 Eagles, Jets, east, east, east. Packers are super north. Jags are super south. Like, you're getting the picture, right? So every year, it doesn't always work this way, but they are in the bottom as far as not only miles traveled. All right, miles traveled's kind of a big deal because it's just less time in the air. But here's the other thing. They have tied for the second least time zones traveled. That's the thing that gets you tired. That's the thing that wears on you. They say when you travel, for every hour difference in time traveled, it takes a day to recover. So if you're the Browns and you're traveling to play the Chargers, that's 3 hours difference. All right. So either you're not fully there for the game, or when you get back, it takes you 3 days or so to recover from it. So it's just one of those things. As an NFL athlete, you get used to these types of things, but it is a big deal that you're constantly traveling. I think it makes it harder for some of these teams who have to travel 36 time zones, 34 time zones. Are you kidding me? Like, that's a lot. You got 12. All right, you're the third most. Sorry. You've got 8 for the Texans, you got 10 for the Steelers, and then 12 for a few teams, including you. That's a pretty big deal. So that's kind of that little nugget. It's that little nugget in the schedule that I just wanted to talk to you guys about because it's one of those things that can be good, and it helps make up for another little nugget that I'll share with you guys. All right, this is last year's record. You were 11-6, and you were second place in the AFC North. So that means you are now playing a second place schedule. So if you're not sure what that means, when the NFL schedule is put together, every single time when you get the schedule, you play one division from the opposite. So AFC teams, the AFC North will play one division. All right. And then you look at it and you also, sorry, my kids are yelling in the background. Sorry if I seem distracted. ADD, hello. All right. So you play that schedule. If you play first place, it's the hardest schedule. If you finish last place last year, you get the easiest schedule of anybody in your division. So that kind of determines, and that's why we always know, like before the schedule release, you notice how you always know which teams you're playing? That's why. So this is a harder schedule this year, but the good news is that even though it's a harder schedule this year, last year's schedule is, I don't know why it thinks I'm celebrating. All right. Last year's schedule was already somewhat difficult, and you get to have that lessened by the time zones. All right. I told you I was going to be talking about an underrated player. Let's look right here. According to PFF, the most underrated player on the Cleveland Browns is defensive tackle Mo Hurst, as I like to call him. Says although his season was cut short due to an injury, Mo Hurst was playing the best, not even close, football of his career in his 6th NFL campaign. In fact, after the first 8 weeks of the season, Hurst ranked 7th among interior defenders in PFF overall grade. Admittedly, he was used as a role player, but he was very efficient in that role. Now, we can sit here and we can talk about how he was just a role player. His season was cut short. The guy had 300 snaps. He had 299 snaps, to be exact. And with that 299 snaps, he had 18 pressures. That was on 173 pass snaps. He was getting pressure at over a 10% clip. That's really good for an interior defensive lineman. So when you're saying with Mo Hurst, he was used as a specialist, yeah, he was put in for pass rushing downs. All right, he had 173 pass rushing snaps in comparison to only 126 run defensive snaps. Here's the funny thing about it. His run grade was actually 1 point higher than his pass rush grade. So here's the beautiful thing. When you can get a significant pass rush from a defensive tackle who also just happens to be 6'2", 290 pounds, and actually has the size of a defensive tackle, then what you're able to do is continue to play the run at an efficient clip while he's in the game. And that is what I think is such a big deal. And that's exactly what he did last year. All right. And you got to see him play that 20 to 30 snap role a game. Perfect. Like, that's exactly what you want. You want a defensive interior that can rotate in. That's what you want. You don't, on the interior of the defensive line, that is not a position like corner where you leave them in every single play of the game. You need depth at the defensive tackle position. So now you're sitting here, and Mo Hurst is sitting here on line 3, according to our lads. First off, no. All right. No, I don't agree with that. You just drafted Mike Hall. You're hoping he becomes what Mo Hurst was for you last year. But you now have depth on the interior of that defensive line. Bringing in Shelby Harris, Delvin Tomlinson you had. All right. Quentin Jefferson, Mike Hall, Siaki Ika. All right. Mo Hurst. They're all here. They're all good. This is exactly what you want to be looking at. But hopefully Mo Hurst continues to play well so you can develop Mike Hall and he can see what it looks like to be an effective pro behind Mo Hurst, who's really honestly got another year or two left at high talent because he's 29 years old. So there you go. Couple of nuggets. Underrated player. Now you got it. All right. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.